Okay, we have the new moon in Cancer update for the July the 14th, 2026. In the UK, British summertime, it's going to be at 10:43 a.m. So for people in the USA, it's going to be on the 14th of July, also July 14th. My name is Penelope, and I am in London, and I'm going to run through what is going on today. Or tomorrow in the next actually 9 hours. It's late in London, so we're going to open with a new moon in its own sign. So the moon and Cancer are connected very heavily. The new moon is going to fall at 21 degrees of Cancer. So if you look at my pointer here, you can see that the new moon, we've got a chart here starting at 0 Aries, so it's easy to see what's going on. And we've got the new moon conjunct the sun. So when we have a full moon, the sun and moon are opposite each other. If you didn't know that, then you do now. So then we've got also Mercury still retrograde, also in Cancer. And the sign she rules is, Cancer is the moon's own sign. The sign she rules, the territory she is most at home in, and the place where her instinctual, tidal, emotionally intelligent nature is fully expressed rather than modified. So it's about full expression. So it's interesting that it's joining up with Mercury retrograde there. And also, a new moon in Cancer is particularly a pure seeding moment, the new cycle beginning in exactly the soil that the moon knows best. And what is planted here is planted in genuine feeling, because it's very feeling, the sign of Cancer. In the body, also knowing in the deep well of emotional truth. So before I go into this chart, if any of what I talk about resonates with you, you can get into contact with me in the description. You'll see my booking page, and I work with people individually, and it's in the description, so you know. So the Cancer stellium, we've got the Sun, Moon, Mercury retrograde here. Yep, can see that. And with Mercury still retrograde, it's not going to go direct until July the 23rd, which means the mind and the word are still turned inward and still moving through emotional memory. And a lot of us maybe have been feeling that, a lot of emotional memory coming up over the past, and it's still working with that retrograde. It has been drawing to the surface since the end of June. And the new moon here, therefore, is being seeded inside a retrograde field. And the intention we are planting at this moon is not extroverted, outreaching intention. It's more of an inward one because of that retrograde conjunction with the sign of in the sign of Cancer, the Mercury retrograde. And it's a seed that goes way down into the soil before it comes up. And this is not a new moon for launching things into the world. It's a new moon for planting something in the interior, in our emotional life, in our private self, and in the honest reckoning with what we actually feel and what we actually need. So if you think about what you've been feeling over the last, I've gone through a lot of feelings over the last week or so myself, and also in trusting that what is planted in genuine truth will grow in its own time. So whatever we've needed to be truthful about to ourselves or to others, or maybe we've, come to our own inner truth, we can probably see that at this time. So now if we look at Jupiter, which I will show you, Jupiter is here at 3 degrees of Leo. Jupiter seems to move so quickly. It was only just moved in recently. It's 12 years around the chart, Jupiter, but Jupiter's at 3 degrees of Leo, and it just recently crossed over from Cancer. And the warmth and expansiveness that Jupiter brings is still very close to the Cancer stellium. I mean, it's a little way away, but it's within 10 degrees almost there. And it's still radiating into its emotional territory at 3 degrees. But it has stopped across the threshold into Leo, which means it sort of stepped into the threshold of Leo, which means the faith and growth that Jupiter offers are beginning to move toward expression, toward visibility, and toward the creative self stepping into the light. And you may have experienced that with yourself as well. I've definitely experienced that where we're stepping into something with that Leo energy. And Jupiter is sextile Uranus. So Jupiter is sextile to Uranus here, you can see. And also Jupiter is trying to Neptune. So if you look here, Jupiter is trying to Neptune, which is in Aries. And at the moment, Neptune is also retrograde at 4 degrees. So this is ongoing for a little while, this Neptune Jupiter trine. And with that, we've got it's toward the creative self stepping in, and this is something that we can, look at in our lives. What are we creating? I've definitely been creative the last couple of weeks myself in different ways, writing and making YouTubes and also doing pieces of art. So we are all up to different things. Creativity isn't just, specifically the things I've mentioned. It can be all sorts of things. It can be creative in our environment, with our food, with our living arrangements and all sorts. So, and it's inspired faith and a genuine creative possibility to this new moon. Something is growing and something is being supported from more than one direction. So this is very good to know that there's a lot of support here. What we do have coming up, that you see this Pluto is at 4 degrees of Aquarius retrograde. Well, we're literally in now to the Jupiter opposition to Pluto. And to me, this is a bit of a reckoning of 2020, because in 2020, if I go back to 2020 and show you, just out of interest, which was a hell of a year for all of us. So you can see that Jupiter was conjunct Pluto, and it was also conjunct Saturn. There was a big, stellium up there with that going on. And at the time, we had a very difficult, few years after that. So now it's in opposition. So I'm going to come back to today, which is 2026. It's hard to believe it was so long ago. It doesn't feel that long ago, in my opinion. But the aspect I want to spend some time with is this Jupiter opposition of Pluto, which currently is at 1 degree and 30 minutes. So if you see 1 degree and about 1 degree 30 before it becomes exact. And this aspect that places the new moon within one of the most significant cycles of the decade, and to understand why we need to go back to 2020. So in January 2020, Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto were all conjunct in Capricorn. And that triple conjunction, three of the most powerful planets in the chart gathering in the same degree of the sign of structure, authority, and collective organization, because this Capricorn was the astrological signature of what followed: the pandemic, the enforced confrontation with mortality, the collapse of systems that had seemed permanent, and people being told to work from home. Exactly, we couldn't go anywhere, and being forced to do things that many people didn't want to do. So the sudden global recognition that the foundation of ordinary life were far more fragile than we had allowed ourselves to believe. So I don't think that this fragility that we experienced, and this is the reality, to see how all connected the whole world was at that point as well. This, it just was a global lockdown. And the collapse of systems also that had seemed permanent, and the global recognition that the foundations of ordinary life were far more fragile. This is the point. That conjunction was a planting, so it's a seed in darkness, in the Capricornian underground of a process of transformation that none of us yet see the shape of. So we haven't really, even though time's moved on, we haven't quite seen the shape of that yet, but we can see there's movement going on. So Jupiter moves through the zodiac in approximately, it's 12 years. And since that conjunction, it's been through Aquarius. If you go up here, it would have been in Capricorn. It's been through Aquarius. It's been through Pisces. It's been through Aries. It's been through Taurus. And it's been through Gemini, if you see my pointer, and Cancer. And it's now crossed into Leo. And Pluto, which moves far more slowly, I think it's 248 years, has been grinding its way through Capricorn and into Aquarius, carrying the transformative weight of that 2020 conjunction forward in its own deep, slow way. And the opposition between Jupiter in Leo and Pluto in Aquarius at this new moon is the full moon moment of the 2020 cycle, not the end of it. Pluto does not rush. It's very slow moving, but the moment when what was seeded in that extraordinary darkness comes into full light of confrontation. So the opposition here, which we're seeing, which is going to be, I can tell you exact days. If we go four, I'm taking this to four, that's 410. We've got 428 up there, so let's go a day ahead. 423. We'll leave it there. It's 423. It's within a few, it's not, it's very close. So it's Jupiter is this is July the 20th up there we're looking at. So it demands that what was planted in the underground of 2020 be looked at directly. So whatever was going on there, now we've got to look at it directly. What actually did happen? So Jupiter in Leo opposing Pluto in Aquarius is asking very specific things. It's, where has genuine individual creative authority taken place? The Leo principle of this, of the sovereign self, and that's what Leo is. It's the sovereign self in a particular light. It's where have we been suppressed, distorted, or co-opted by collective systems of power, and where have we transformed? And the Aquarian Pluto principle up here, the Aquarian Pluto is, it's of the reorganization of how we live together. This is what's going on. It's like, how do we live together? So you're seeing a bit of a split at the moment of how people live together, and also that Uranus of 4 degrees of Gemini. We do have, if you look here, you've got this beautiful trine going on, and then you have also a sextile up here, and then Neptune sextile here. So there's something sort of good going on, but it's difficult to know exactly what it is. But I think we sort of have an idea that we may not really know where we're going. But for many people, I don't think it's been, I don't sort of feel heavy about where things are going. I'm just very curious. And maybe that's the Gemini Uranian energy. Like anything could happen. So, and good as well. So it's been suppressed, distorted, and this collective system of power, which clearly doesn't 100% work. And it's not all or nothing, but it's collective transformation and the reorganization, and also how we live in our own bodies, I think, and how we live with that Chiron in Taurus as well, that moved into Taurus. It's the body. We've been blocked by the insistence of individual things that at the expense of the whole. So there's some sort of block, but this is the tension between the individual and the collective, because we can feel like we're pretty trapped, I think. And Uranus what is wanting to break free of limitations, and that Pluto Aquarius as well is the same field of the Uranian energy. So this feeling, it does not resolve easily, but the new moon in Cancer is the sign of genuine feeling. So what is I'm genuinely feeling at this time of the personal and the private? It's the seed inside that tension, rather than to pretend it's not there, because I think people are thinking a bit deeper about things. And also the outer planet Trinity, which I just showed you, which is the Pluto sextile to Neptune in Aries, Pluto in Aquarius sextile is 60 degrees, if you're wondering. Pluto sextile to Neptune in Aries, and Neptune sextile to Uranus. And also then we have this trine up here as well to Pluto. So something extraordinary, it's visible in this chart, and it's rare as well. And Uranus sextile Neptune It's in a 4 minute orb actually. Uranus trine Pluto is about a 14-minute orb, so they're really, really close. And Neptune sextile Pluto is a 10-minute orb. So all three of the outer planets, Uranus in Gemini, Neptune in Aries, and Pluto in Aquarius, are virtually in exact harmonic aspect to each other. All together, this is rare, a rare configuration, and it's speaking, I think, to something operating beneath the surface of the collective field because of that Pluto. There's one in Neptune. Neptune is out there, and this is rare, and I think that beneath the surface of the collective field, it's far larger than any single transit or lunation, that's going on where the sun moves and how the moon and Mercury and Venus. So these are the planets of collective awakening. And particularly if you look at evolutionary astrology, it's collective awakening, it's collective dissolution and collective transformation. And when they are in this exact precise flowing aspect to each other, sextile and trine, they're working in concert rather than in conflict. So they're not conflicting. And that disruption that Uranus brings to the information field, the dissolving that Neptune brings to old forms and illusions. I've just been observing lately of how people are beginning to talk about data centers and how we're all using AI. It's not just when we think people think AI is just ChatGPT. It's not. It's artificial intelligence. It's everything we use. It's when we're paying with I don't put my cards on my phone, but I know some people do that, and they use their phones to go on the underground to clock in and clock out. So we're all using this stuff. It's not just bad people using ChatGPT. I'm not saying they're bad, but some people do think that, and they think that AI is that's what they. I think the bigger picture is not being taken into account, that we're all using Wi-Fi. Anybody that's listening to technology these days, and the transformation that Pluto brings to the power structures. So there is a power structure going on around that area as well. But all of these three are in harmonious dialogue in with this new moon as well. And this does not mean the world is suddenly easy or that any difficulty is over, because with trines and sextiles, there's work to do still. It means that the deeper current of the collective evolution is moving more in like a coherent direction. And I see that because there's a bit more of a knowing going on that maybe still be unspoken, but there's more of a knowing, even when the surface is turbulent and there is something being built underneath the noise. And this trinity is part of the architecture of it, which is really beautiful. Yeah. So I was born with Pluto conjunct Uranus with an opposition to, I'm at my second Saturn return. So a lot of people would have this born in the 60s. So my Saturn is in opposition to my Pluto, and also Chiron is conjunct my Saturn. So that was quite a tricky combination, or it has been quite a tricky combination, but there's good combinations as well within my charts. So it's not all doom and gloom when we look at our charts. And the other thing I'd like to talk about, moving on to Lilith, because I love working in my own chart with Lilith, and also Lilith is trine to Venus at this time, or not Venus actually, let me see. I haven't got the true Lilith up here, so you can't see it. So the true Lilith, so maybe I'll just talk about it, but you can't see it here. So true Lilith in Capricorn, and that's where true Lilith is at the moment. Trine Venus in Leo, and I'll give it a bit of understanding and attention because it speaks to something that runs through all the work we have been doing across, the year, and it's especially beautiful at a Cancer new moon. So Lilith is the true, raw, unapologetic divine feminine. In Capricorn carries a particular authority. And this is not the soft, yielding, accommodating feminine that patriarchal structures have been comfortable with. This is the feminine that has been through the wilderness and come back knowing exactly who she is. And you may, if you ever get to read Women Who Run with the Wolves, I think that book to me has got a lot of Lilith energy in it, lots of stories. It's worth reading, by Clarissa Pinkola Estes. So this feminine, this is the feminine that has been through the wilderness and come back knowing exactly who she is. So Capricorn, which you can't see here, so I do apologize for that because I haven't set this chart at, of, it looks like it's in Sagittarius, but this is not true Lilith. The true Lilith is in Capricorn, okay? So Capricorn gives Lilith structure and bone and the unshakable authority of someone who has done the long work and earned the right to stand where they stand. And she is the elder feminine in her power. And this isn't just in women, you know, this is the mythology and it's the feeling body of, this is not performing power, not performing sweetness, and not performing any of it. This isn't about performance. It's simply be in it. And with the full weight of everything she has survived behind her. So Venus in Leo is the creative, you know, if we look, I'm not saying it's feminine, but just giving you an idea, if we look at it as the creative feminine in full expression, warm, generous, radiant, wanting to be seen and to give something beautiful to those who are watching. And the trine between them at 1 degree, which it is at 14 minutes, separating, is a flowing, harmonious conversation between the two faces of the feminine and the deep, weathered, uncompromising authority of Lilith in Capricorn and the joyful, heart-centered, creative radiance of Venus in Leo. And they're not in conflict. And when I feel what I feel around this, they're not in conflict. They're in dialogue. The woman who has survived is also the woman who creates. And this is very true. And I don't want to just apply this to women either. I think this is a feeling thing. The women do, you know, and the men do also who create. The ones who will take no nonsense is also the one who brings beauty. So when people have said enough and, you know, that I'm going to spend more time making things beautiful. So these two are the same, seen from different angles. So Lilith also connects to the South Node through this chart. So Lilith, again, which you can't see it, but I know it's there. She's part of the release of the nodal axis and is working with the long arc of the feminine that's been asked to relinquish, to transform. And the North Node sextile Chiron. So if you see here, the North Node is sextile to Chiron as well. It's a very beautiful chart, actually. The North Node sextile Chiron continues the thread we have been tracking since Chiron entered Taurus. So the healing of worth, this is what is going on here, the healing of worth and recovery of our own voice and our voices. And it's the evolutionary direction aligned with the long work of embodied self-acceptance, because it's very difficult for a lot of us to accept ourselves, and it can be very, you know, long drawn out work, but it's the ultimate. You know, can you imagine that living all of your entire life and getting to, you know, I don't know, let's say 85, and you don't feel an acceptance of yourself, or you don't love yourself, or you don't feel this warmth towards yourself. So this is something we must consider and work on. The North Node up here at 0 degrees, it's going to be moving towards Aquarius, and I have got a video I'm going to make on Thursday upcoming talking about this, because the Pluto in Aquarius has happened with Pluto in Aquarius with the North Node has happened, I believe, twice, but I have to double check my figures before I say anything here for the video I'm doing on Thursday this week. So the North Node is currently in Pisces, as we can see, moving as the nodes always do in a retrograde motion. If you have never noticed that, they move in a retrograde motion, and it's heading towards Aquarius. It's so close. And this shift, when it comes, will move the collective direction from the Piscean territory of compassion, dissolution, and spiritual surrender into the Aquarian territory of collective intelligence, and that beauty down there, that Uranus in Gemini as well. So we're moving away from the Piscean. I'm looking forward to moving away from the Piscean stuff. It's been a long hog. I also have Chiron conjunct Saturn in Pisces in my 4th house as a birth chart, and it's heavy stuff. There's gifts, but there's gifts with everything, but there's heavy stuff too. So when we look, that the community innovation will be very important, and the building of new systems that generally serve the whole rather than a few, because there's a lot of things at the moment that sort of do not serve the whole. They serve some people, but not all. And Pisces has been asking us to let go, to dissolve what has outlived its purpose. Okay. So this is like what has outlived its purpose, to soften the ego structures that were keeping us from a genuine connection. And Aquarius will ask what we build with the space that dissolution has created and the dissolving of. So at this Cancer new moon here, it's going to be in the fourth house. This is the 20th of July up here, but the new moon is on the 14th in the coming hours. And we've got the stellium in Cancer, Mercury retrograde, as we said, still working through emotional memory, Lilith and Venus in their feminine dialogue, and the approaching shift of the North Node towards Aquarius is a beautiful counterpoint, as we can see. And what we are planting at this new moon in the personal, emotional, and private interior is not separate from the collective future that the Aquarian North Node will eventually be asking us to build. The seed is planted in genuine feeling, yeah, because that Cancer reality of the sun and the Mercury and the moon, that seed is what eventually becomes the contribution to the collective. So the personal and the collective are not in opposition, and the personal is the foundation of the collective. And this is the truth. The personal is the foundation of the collective. So what is healed inside becomes what is offered outside. And what is not healed inside is what becomes what is offered outside. Works both ways. And what to plant if you're going to plant something. I think I've done my planting. So Cancer in the moon's own sign with Mercury still retrograde is asking that that seed comes from a genuine feeling rather than from ambition to be, or the performing of intention. What do you actually feel? And we can get so stuck that we need this and we need that and I need, all of these things we need. And it's like, what do you actually feel? And it's difficult for us, a lot of us, to actually know what we actually feel because we're looping a lot of our stuff. We're looping, or we're going backwards to the past, and then we're, afraid of the future. So we do this looping between anxiety and fear and self doubt, and we can't live anywhere else other than the now. And takes such a long time to actually understand that as well. So no, it's not what do you think you should feel. It's not I should feel this or I should be positive. It's not what would look like growth, if you wrote it in a journal, but what actually is alive right now in you. And it can be creativity, it could be music, it could be people, it could be nutrition. It's like, what is alive underneath all of the management of it? Like, I'm managing, I've got to, be this particular way, this particular person, and earn this particular amount of money. I think we're sort of gone past that now. I think that awareness is far more powerful than any amount of money. So the Jupiter opposition Pluto is asking that whatever we plant at this new moon is honest about our tension between the individual creative authority and the collective systems that we're operating within. And the Lilith trine to Venus is maybe asking that whatever we plant honor both the uncompromising weathered authority of what we have been through and the genuine joy and beauty of what we are capable of creating, because some of us have been through so much and it's been harsh, and it's time to sort of like know that we're capable of creating something lovely and new. We're all at different levels in this. For some people it's going to be, when I look at different charts, like I had a chart around 2016. My life was so difficult, like so many things hit the fan all at once, and my chart, mirrored that. So that was a period of time which allowed me to come into being as I've come into being now. And I don't when people say things happen for a reason, I don't like that terminology. I think that things are much deeper than we can know. And I also don't believe in this overly toxic positivity where people say, oh, let it go, and just, the law of attraction stuff. I'm not particularly into it at all because I understand trauma and I work as well, part of my role is a peer support. This is just something part time I do. It's like my paying back to where people have helped me. So, and I see, there is trauma in this world, there is difficulties, and we're all at different levels of needing help along the way. And I did get help, and so through that, I learnt that there are good people in this world. So the outer planet Trinity can give us some assurance that there is a current collective, something lovely, but beneath the surface, beneath this turbulence, and that what is really and genuine and true and genuinely felt is not swimming against the current, it's part of it. So if we think of it as planting something real for ourselves at this time in our stillness, and something that comes from the body, something that has been waiting in the emotional depth. It could be writing something, it's so many different things. I tend to talk about what I do, which is I like doing watercolor art, I like doing collage work, and I like doing morning pages. I like writing, and I find my own way through with these different things that I like to do. So, whatever it is for you, and I'm thinking of volunteering at a local. It's like a manor, if you know what I mean. It's a building where they display art as well, and it's a house that was built in the 1800s by a gentleman called John Soane, who was partly responsible for the building of the Bank of England, apparently. And I'm thinking of doing some one day a week there, voluntary for a couple of hours to learn about the plants and the herbs and to help with the flowers and things. That'll be really good for me because it's a little bit wild. They sort of seem to be a bit wild. It's not so curated. And that's where I go visit a magnolia tree that I love often as well, which brings me a lot of joy. So it's something that comes from us and the emotional depth at the right moment and this darkness and the quiet place, so we can ground. And Cancer Moon, knows it's about truth. It's planting it in truth. What do I really feel? Because it is about feelings, and that's it. And I'm going to be back on Thursday with some more. So I hope you enjoyed that. And if you got any questions or you'd like to hear about something specific to do with the planets, put it in the comments. Thanks for listening.